the first edition of Success in Art. This show is really about artists, and when I say artists, I mean anyone who lives a creative lifestyle. The show is going to focus primarily on visual artists and fine artists, but along the path, I'm going to interview many others, including musicians, interior artists, tattoo artists, and interior decorators. Anything that has to do with creating. And that's what the show is about. It's about creating. It's about living that creative dream, the creative path, the creative spark. That's what I like to say. And I'll be interviewing artists that find a way somehow to integrate creativity into their life, well, full-time, part-time, as a hobby, but find a way to live that life. And the goal of the show is to inspire and be inspired. My guest today is David Lafrance, and we're going to thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And you kind of specialize in doing pencil drawings of bicycles?
Yeah, black and white illustrations. I did rock stars for a while, and now I'm into doing Harleys and Indians and motorcycles.
And how did you get into artwork? What brought you to this path?
I was an artist, I think, in first grade. I won my first contest. We had to build a dinosaur out of clay.
I love clay.
and I built this perfect dinosaur. And my friend Junior goes, when we put him up, they said, "This one won, whose is it?" And I said, "Oh, that's mine." And my friend Junior said, "No, that's mine." Oh. And I never signed it. So when the teacher looked for the name, she saw that there was no name on it. So she goes, "Okay, here's 2 clumps of clay. You guys build your dinosaur."
Your first art competition.
My first art competition. My best friend Junior. So I made mine like in 2 seconds, and my friend Junior's like, "No, it was his," you know. So that was my first win, really.
You knew you'd be a creative. You had that.
Right, right. That I enjoyed drawing, and then the second time was at the Boys Club. I grew up at the Nashua Boys Club, and the teacher there, Brian Shaughnessy, was an awesome art teacher, and he inspired me a lot to, develop my style, and keep drawing. And he became a big inspiration to me throughout the years.
Can you tell me a little bit about your path as an artist? So you kind of learned in school that you have a talent, and then you started to directly draw things. And how did you get from there to creating these beautiful pieces?
Well, it's a long story, but
I'll
try to make it short. When I was 12, I got in a lot of trouble, and
many artists do.
And the judge, my probation officer, wanted me to do something with my talent because he saw that I was really talented. I drew all the time when I was a kid. And he inspired the judge to send me to a school called Father Flanagan's Boys Town in Omaha, Nebraska. Mm-hmm. So instead of going to YDC, they gave me the option to go to Boys Town. So I was like, yeah, I'll go to Boys Town, It got to be better than YDC, because I already went to YDC.
That was no good, yeah.
that wasn't fun. So I went to Boys Town. Went there for 4.5 years, and I got really inspired to keep creating. I got more in the drawing. My art teacher out there was really good, Mr. Pulliam, and him and I just would draw anything, He showed me all kinds. He was an awesome teacher.
Yeah.
And after I left Boys Town, I came back to Nashua, and I graduated from Nashua High. And because I graduated from Boys Town, the program, not the high school, they offered me a scholarship to go to college. And
for art, yeah.
And I took advantage of that and went to college down in Fort Lauderdale at the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale.
Oh.
Yeah. It was a toss-up. It was either Fort Lauderdale or Denver, Colorado. I applied to both places at the same time.
Yeah.
And Fort Lauderdale responded quicker to accept me. And then I waved out the right. All right, I've been in winter all my life.
Yeah, that isn't hard to go someplace warm for 4
Right?
years.
Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I was like, all right, I'm going to Florida. And I went there and graduated from the Art Institute in 1988 and learned a real lot down there. Yeah.
Now the challenge as an artist, and I know I face this myself, is to keep doing the art. So between then and now, what have you done, to keep art alive, that creative spirit alive?
Well, after I graduated, I came back to New Hampshire. Back in '88, they had the trickle-down economy. I couldn't get a job at an ad agency. I couldn't get a job at McDonald's. I was overqualified for McDonald's and underqualified for an ad agency.
That sounds familiar.
Right. So at that point, I was doing nothing, and I wanted to keep drawing. I wanted to pursue my art, and I went to a Grateful Dead show down in Foxborough with a friend of mine, and I was like, wow, I can go home, draw a picture of Jerry, make posters, and follow the Dead, get to see the country, and show my art off, and make a name for myself. So that's what I did back in '89 to '92.
So you just kind of traveled along where the band went and just set up in the parking lot? And
walked around the parking lot.
So is that your first real money as an artist?
Yeah, I would say so, because through the 3 years I sold 7,500 posters.
Wow.
I drew Jerry, I drew the whole Grateful Dead, I drew Bob Marley, Janis Joplin, John Lennon, the whole band in the peace sign. Yeah, I did a lot of, and these drawings were like 40 hours, all pencil.
Yeah,
so
but you made posters. Yeah.
Right, and the posters were $135 for 1,000 posters.
Pretty good deal.
Yeah, that ends up to be like 9 cents a poster. After I got my Jerry done, I went around Nashua and surrounding towns and sold them to all the head shops. And I made like $750. And I was like, wow, everybody likes this drawing, And that's what inspired me to go on tour.
I love that. I love the validation as an artist, to show people and get their reactions.
Right,
it's part of the fun of being an artist.
Right. So that's what I did. I packed up my portfolio full of posters and went out to the highway. I didn't have a car. I had no license,
But you had passion.
But I had passion. I knew this is what I had to do, Did
you ever get any feedback from any of the artists that you drew?
I actually gave Jerry a poster in San Francisco when he was up on stage at the Greek Amphitheater. Yeah. He looked at it, he was like, nice, and then he put it aside. Yeah. And I didn't really get to, that was the closest I really got to him. That was probably the highlight of the whole tour,
Yeah.
I always wanted to go to California. I just didn't have the money to go there. But doing this, selling posters on the way, I was selling posters on the main street in Berkeley, California.
So you were making a living as an artist. You were living the artist's dream.
That's all I had. That's all I had for money was poster, right?
Yeah.
Get
you from point A to point B and start all over.
Yeah. I remember one time I didn't have enough money to pay the taxi driver who brought us from the train station to the show in Newark, New Jersey. So I grabbed a couple posters. I ran out there to the crowd and said, hey, you guys want to help me out? I need to pay this guy. I got posters here for $5. And they're like, yeah, I'll take one of those for $5,
Fun.
And
it's not easy, but I bet you look back with such fond memories of that time in your life and just living art,
Right.
Selling it.
Well, what it was my art was taking care of me,
And that's really the goal of a lot of artists, you know. But a lot of us, you know, you have kids and you have to pay the bills, and sometimes
Oh, yeah.
art takes a second, you know, seat to
Right.
living. And I do the same thing. I have a degree in fine art and commercial art, and the commercial art I do more because it pays the bills.
Right.
No, you so you went on tour for 3 years, and then what happened?
Well, as you know, Jerry died back in, I want to say, 97 or 98. But when he died, the whole tour thing kind of died with
Yeah,
it.
wow.
And at the same time, I met my wife. And,
Oh, love.
yeah, yeah. And at this point, after touring for all that time, you know, I always wanted a big family. I always wanted to have kids. I come from a family of 6, 5 brothers and 1 sister. So when my wife and I met and things went well, and she got pregnant with our first kid, I was like, all right, now it's time to settle down, take care of family, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So we settled down in Nashua, and we had 2 kids in Nashua, and then we moved up to Manchester, had 1 kid in Manchester, and then we moved to Franklin. We kept,
So every town you
oh no, we're heading north. You know, we're heading north. Eventually, we'll be up there in the White Mountains.
You'll be up, yeah, with the 12 kids.
Yeah, hopefully not with maybe 12 grandchildren, but
Yeah.
So when we moved to to Franklin, we bought a house up there, and we had 3 more kids. So I had 5 boys, and the last one was a girl. She was born on the 4th of July.
Aw.
Red hair.
You gotta tell me her
green
name.
Teresa.
Beautiful.
Teresa Judith Ada Lafrance.
Born on the 4th of July. She's gonna love that when she grows
Yeah.
up.
Teresa is my mother's name. Judith is my wife's mother's name. And Ada is the judge's wife, the judge who sent me to Boys Town.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he ended up being like my godfather.
Well, sometimes weird things happen in your life, and it seems like something that could have, you know, made your life one way, but it's a blessing in disguise. It sounds like that was a great blessing in disguise.
It was. The judge was great, you know. He actually came to my graduation when I graduated from Nashua High. He did there was a big article about me when he passed away. It had been like almost 8 years ago. And then when his wife passed away, we would take her out, and you know, she'll ride a wheelchair with the baby on there, and you know, I love Judge Hackaway, Mrs. Hackaway.
Well, sounds like he loved you and was very proud of you too.
Yes, yes. I actually have his judge's chamber that was on his door. It says the judge. Going down into my studio, I got it right on the wall.
So
there.
every day it's a reminder.
Every day, yeah.
So now you have a family and you've got 6 kids. How do you keep art alive then? You have to live day to day. Well, how do you manage to keep that spark?
When I started the motorcycles,
Which are beautiful.
I believe it was a 56 Panhead. When I first started that drawing, I was homeless. I was drawing in the library. Mm-hmm. I was sleeping over a friend's house, you know. And by the time I finished that Indian, that was finished in 2003 or 2003. 10 years later, I had 6 kids. House, 2 dogs, 6 cats, you know. So don't ask me how I managed all that, because to this day I don't know. I worked, I did construction, I installed cable, and in between times where there's nothing to do, I would sit on my drawing table and draw. I would draw this. This was a 100-hour drawing.
Very detailed.
Took me 3 months to finish it. And what I would do is I'd draw from 11 o'clock at night till
The kids go to bed.
4 in the morning, and the kids are in bed.
And when do you sleep?
Well, if I'm not working the following day, then I'll sleep all day the next day, and then get up and do it again, you know. But I got such a good response off the first bikes that I decided to do 12 bikes for a self-promoting calendar.
Aha, right here.
Yeah, and that's
Art is everywhere.
that is my calendar.
So 12 bikes. So how long did it take to do this?
10 years.
10 years.
5 kids later.
Yeah. So this is kind of like your poster idea, the way to make some money from your artwork.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
What I did is I had T-shirts made, and when I brought that artwork to a T-shirt guy to make the T-shirt would come out like crap.
Yeah, because it's you don't have you have such detail in your artwork. It's not going to come out in the screen.
Right. So I'm like, buddy, I just spent 100 hours on that drawing. You just turned it into a graphic illustration. He goes, oh, this is the best I can do. So going to college, I understand a lot how reproduce artwork. That's why I draw in black and white. It's cheaper to reproduce.
Yeah.
You know, so I went out and I got my own screen printing equipment. I went out and got my own black and white photostat camera so I can shoot my artwork to make the film positives that I need to print nice shirts.
Now, it was on your website. It seems like that turned into a business of its own then, did it? That you kind of had that skill set and you had the artist eye. So
that was the creation of Lafrance Studio, you know, and I had my studio. My studio's been in 2-car garages, been up in lofts. It's been over my buddy's basement. Now it's in my basement at home in Franklin.
But you've always had a studio. Do you find like if you put your art away, if you don't see it, then it's harder to get back to it sometimes, isn't it?
I don't even want to try that, you know.
I can tell you, if you put your art away,
I know,
you don't have room to paint and create, it's harder to get back to it. But that's part of the purpose of the show, is to inspire and be inspired. And just being around artists is very inspiring, and hearing stories like this is very inspiring.
That was my inspiration. My inspiration was, they say you can make $1 million off one drawing, as long as you market it right, you know. So that was my goal, is make money off my drawings.
Well, how do you market your artwork now?
I screen print them all on T-shirts myself. I make calendars. Those calendars from 2004, and if you open them up, it's 11 by 14.
Yep, that's a pretty good size.
So what I do is I cut them in half, and I use the pictures. I put them in picture frames.
Yeah, yeah,
So
I do that sometimes.
I'm not wasting my calendar that I had an investor pay.
Yeah.
I had an investor down in Nashua, Toyota. Will Pikowski, he owned Nashua Toyota. He was a good friend of the judges. And Mrs. Hackaway said, you need to go talk to Will. So I went and talked with Will, and he helped finance my studio to, you know, get me going. And he's the one who paid for those calendars. And
how did you do? This is from 2004.
We got 2,500 calendars for 10 grand. I sold a little more than half in 2003. I was selling in 2003. And it was my brother and I, you know, we went to Sturgis, we went to Evel Knievel Days out in Butte, Montana, went to Harley Davidson's 100th anniversary party, plus a lot of other motorcycle shows. And because I didn't make as much money as I was hoping, Will didn't think that there was money in this.
Yeah, but it's a learning experience.
Right,
even when things don't turn out the way you are, you're still learning something from them.
And I did learn a lot. I learned that if somebody's gonna give you money, make sure you use it right.
Yeah.
you know, and it was all based on marketing and, you know, projections.
Which is an art of itself.
Which I know nothing about, you know, and if I was to do that all over again, I would have a better idea of how things work like that.
Yeah.
But every day is a learning, you know. I got the talent. I don't have the business side of it.
But you know, you have the talent. And you do it, which is huge. That's
Right.
You're miles ahead of everyone else. Now you're telling me you have a big plan. So what's the big plan?
All right. My big plan is to teach kids to paint murals. Have them come in and work in my studio. I want to open my studio to kids. And Evel Knievel, when he gave me his endorsement with this drawing, he was inspired to help me because of my plan with the kids, you know. He wanted my studio to succeed so I can start teaching kids.
Sounds like you want to kind of pay it forward. You know, because you got help as a kid.
Exactly.
You know, just from me and an outsider's point of view, it just sounds like that's, you know, maybe.
That's exactly what I'm trying to give back, you know. Financially, I can't give back because I don't make that kind of money, you know. If I did, then everything would be great, you know.
Yeah.
So what my plan is to do is get kids. I taught some kids at the Boys and Girls Club in Nashua. We painted murals around the Boys Club. Mm-hmm. So that kind of inspired me to teach kids. And these kids were great. You know, they had wonderful talent.
That's something great about kids is they have that creativity, and it's you know, something happens when you grow up and you, unless you keep in touch with your artwork, you kind of lose that
exactly
unbridled creativity where anything is possible.
Right, and that's what I was seeing with these kids. You know, I'm like, you know, they're never gonna pursue their art because one, you got to work, you got to make a living, you know. And I wanted to tell them, listen, you got a great talent, you can make money.
They need someone to inspire them, you know.
Exactly, and that's what I'm trying to do with my studio, to where they can come in, work in my studio for free. I'm not going to charge them, you know. They'll have access to airbrushes, to paints, you know, to T-shirts, you know, to whatever I have, they can have, you know, access to keep them inspired.
Yeah. So is there a specific age group? Any
Yeah,
target?
I'm shooting for ages 15 to 21.
Okay. And what kind of murals have you done? Is it this sort of, you know, artwork, or is it something different?
No,
or anything that they want to do?
Anything that we can do. Mm-hmm. But what I'm doing is I'm creating this painting called Evolution.
Oh, I can't wait.
Oh yeah.
I want to see it already.
It's big. It's going to be probably, say, 10 feet tall by 6 feet wide. Mm-hmm. And it's going to have over 500 different animals in it, going from the ground to grass to trees to the sky, all the way up. And it's gonna be very busy. It's going to have a lot of stuff in it,
yeah.
a lot of detail in it. Now, once we get this drawing done, painting, we're going to break it all into little squares. And each square, we're going to paint on a piece of plywood, 4 by 8. So you'll see a piece.
I'm like adding into my mind.
Oh yeah. Somebody said, let's say it was like 5,000 pieces, right? That is the goal. If we break it all into little squares, and we have 5,000 pieces, paint each square to a T, then we're going to go to the salt flats of Utah and lay it out. It's going to be 5 miles wide by 7 miles long.
Wow, that's
big.
It's big,
right? So
I hope you get there. I hope I would love to. You know,
I hope so too. You know, this is
like
my
another
big
10-year
dream.
project.
Right. Well, I figured once I get going, it'll probably take about 5 years. I want to get the kids to do the paintings on the plywood, and my goal is to get in the Guinness Book of World Records as the world's largest mural ever painted.
That would be awesome, yeah.
Now, once we lay it out in the Salt Flats of Utah, we're going to invite the whole country to come check it out, right?
And it's all the pieces.
Right? No, it's going to be all together, you know? And then we're going to put a border around it, so everybody's inside the border, and the people are going to be the frame of the painting. So when we have the satellite come over to take a picture of it, you're going to see the painting and the people all around the painting to create.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is so big, it will make Woodstock look like a day at the park.
Well, you know, I think it's great. You know, the trend that I've noticed lately is I've been watching some of the social media, but it seems like the people's art is coming back. I've seen more art classes popping up, and yet more things popping up where people are just want to get back to this art and this creative route. But we have to finish up. So if people want to get in touch with you, learn more about your paintings and your project, how would they get in touch with you? What's the best way?
You could go to my webpage, www.lafrancestudio.com, or you can simply call me at 603-455-1811. It's my cell phone. I accept all calls.
All right. Well, it's been really great talking to you. I love your vision. I love your artwork. Thank you for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
And again, my name is Debbie Roy. If you're an artist or a creative or find a way to live that creative spark in your life, I'd love to hear from you. We will be continuing this series a couple of months. And again, my goal in doing this is to inspire and be inspired. So I hope you are inspired today, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.